Chapter 66. The boats were delayed. We waited on the stony banks of the Angara River for more than a week. They fed us barley porridge. I couldn't figure out why they were feeding us more than bread. It was not out of kindness. Our strength would be needed, but what for? We sat in the sun as if on vacation. I drew for Papa and wrote to Andrus every day. I drew on small scraps of paper so as not to be noticed, and hid them between the pages of Dombey and Son. An Estonian woman noticed me drawing and gave me additional paper. We hauled logs, but only for our nightly bonfires. We sat around the crackling fires and sang Lithuanian songs. The entire forest echoed in song from the people of the Baltic singing of their homeland. 2 women were chosen to travel to Chechmerov by train to help carry supplies back from the NKVD. For the NKVD, they mailed our letters for us. Please, could you take this to Chechmerov and pass it along to someone? I handed a slat of wood to the woman. It's lovely. The flowers. You've done a beautiful job. I had rue flowers in my backyard at home, she said, sighing. She looked up at me. Your father is in Krasnoyarsk? I nodded. Lena, please don't get your hopes up. Krasnoyarsk is a long way from here, said Mother. One day, after sitting in the sun, Mother and I waded into the Angara. We ran out of the water laughing. Our clothes clung tightly to our thin bodies. Cover yourself, said Jonas, looking around. What do you mean? Said Mother, pulling at the wet fabric clinging to her. They're watching, said Jonas, motioning with his head to the NKVD. Jonas, they have no interest. Look at us. We're hardly glamorous, said Mother, wringing water from her hair. I wrapped my arms around her torso. They found Mrs. Arvidas interesting. Maybe he finds you interesting, said Jonas. Mother's hands dropped. What are you talking of? Who? Nikolai, said Jonas. Kretsky? I said. What about him? Ask Mother, said Jonas. Stop it, Jonas. We don't know Nikolai, said Mother. I faced Mother. Why do you call him Nikolai? How do you know his name? Mother looked from me to Jonas. I asked him his name, she said. My stomach dropped. Was Jonas right? But, Mother, he's a monster, I said, wiping water from the scar on my forehead. She moved in closer, wringing out her skirt. We don't know what he is. I snorted. He's a... Mother grabbed my arm. Pain shot up into my shoulder. She spoke through clenched teeth. We don't know. Do you hear me? We don't know what he is. He's a boy. He's just a boy. Mother let go of my arm. And I'm not lying with him, she spat at Jonas. How dare you imply such a thing? Mother, stammered Jonas. She walked away, leaving me rubbing my arm. Jonas stood, shocked by Mother's outburst. Chapter 67. For weeks the barges crept farther north up the Angara. We disembarked and rode for days in the back of black trucks through dense forests. We passed enormous fallen trees with trunks so large the truck could have driven inside them. I saw no human beings. The dark forest seemed to surround us, impenetrable. Where were they taking us? We broiled each day and shivered at night. Blisters healed. We ate everything given to us, thankful we weren't put to work. The trucks arrived at Ustkut on the river Lena. We waited once again for barges. The bank of the Lena, or the Lena, however they say it, was blanketed with tiny pebbles. It poured rain. The makeshift tents on the bank did nothing to shelter us. I lay on top of my suitcase protecting Dombey and Son, the stone, my drawings, and our family photo. Janina stood in the rain. She stared at the sky, carrying on conversations with no one. Kretsky's boots crunched up and down the bank. He yelled at us to stay in groups. At night, he'd stand staring at the silvery ribbon of moonlight on the Lena, moving only to bring his glowing cigarette to his lips. My Russian improved. Jonas was still far ahead of me. After 2 weeks, the barges arrived and the NKVD once again boarded us to float north. We left Ustkut and passed Kurensk. We're traveling north, said Jonas. Maybe we really will sail for America. And leave Papa behind? I asked. Jonas looked out at the water. He said nothing. The repeater spoke of nothing but America. He tried to draw maps of the United States, discussing details he'd heard from friends or relatives. He needed to believe it was possible. In America, there are excellent universities in an area they call New England. They say New York is quite fashionable, said Joanna. Who says New York is fashionable? I asked. My parents. What do they know of America? I asked. Mother has an uncle there, said Joanna. I thought all of Auntie's family was in Germany, I said. Apparently she has a relative in America. She gets letters from him. He's in Pennsylvania. I don't much care for America. They certainly lack for art. I can't name a single American artist who is accomplished. You better not be drawing me, said the bald man. I don't want any pictures drawn of me. Actually, I'm almost finished, I said, shading in the gray area of his spotted cheeks. Tear it up, he insisted. No. Don't worry, I won't show it to anyone. You won't if you know what's good for you. I looked down at my drawing. I had captured his curled lip and the surly expression he always wore. He wasn't ugly. The deep lines above his brow just made him look cranky. Why were you deported? I asked him. You said you were a stamp collector, but why would they deport you for collecting stamps? Mind your own business, he said. Where's your family? I pressed. I said, it's none of your business, he snapped, pointing his crooked finger at me. And if you know what's best for you, you'll keep your drawings out of sight, do you hear me? Janina sat down next to me. You'll never be a famous artist, said the bald man. Yes, she will, argued Janina. No, she won't. You know why? Because she's not dead. But maybe there's still hope for that, too. America. Bah! I stared at him. My Dolly's dead, said Janina. We approached Yakutsk. Now we shall see, said the repeater, fidgeting. If we disembark here, we will not go to America. We will not go. Where would we go? Asked Jonas. To the Kolyma region, said the bald man. To the prisons, maybe Magadan. We're not going to Magadan, said Mother. Stop such talk, Mr. Stallis. Not Kolyma, no, not Kolyma, said the repeater. The barges slowed. We were coming to a stop. No, please, no, whispered Jonas. Mrs. Remus began to cry. I can't be in prison this far from my husband. Janina tugged at my sleeve. Liao says we're not going to Kolyma. What? She says we're not going. She shrugged. We crowded near the edge of the barge. Some of the NKVD disembarked. Kretsky was among them. He carried a rucksack. A commander met the guards on the shore, and we watched as they checked assignments. Look, said Jonas. Some of the NKVD are loading supplies onto the boat. So we're not getting off here? I asked. Suddenly voices rose from the bank. It was Kretsky. He was arguing with a commander. I understood the commander. He told Kretsky to get back on the barge. Kretsky wants to stay, said Jonas. Good. Let him stay, I said. Kretsky flailed his arms at the commander, who pointed back at the boat. Mother sighed and looked down. Kretsky turned back to the barge. He wasn't leaving. He was coming with us, wherever we were going. The passengers cheered and embraced as the barge pulled away from Yakutsk. A week later, spirits were still buoyant. People sang on the deck of the barge. Someone played an accordion. Kretsky stormed through the crowd, shoving people aside. What's wrong with you? Are you all imbeciles? You cheer as if you're going to America. Fools, he yelled. The elation collapsed to murmurs. America. America? Said the repeater quietly. Where were they taking us? It was already August. Temperatures dropped as we sailed northward. It felt like late October, not summer. The forest along the bank of the Lena thinned. We've crossed into the Arctic Circle, announced the man who wound his watch. What? Gasped Jonas. How can that be? Where are they taking us? That is correct, said the repeater. We'll go to the mouth of the Lena and get on huge steamships to America. Steamships. The barges stopped in Balloon and Tolbai in the Arctic. We watched as large groups were herded off the barge and simply left standing on the deserted shore as we pulled away. We sailed on. In late August, we reached the mouth of the river Lena. The temperature was just above freezing. The icy waves of the Laptev Sea crashed against the barge as it was moored to the shore. "Davai!" yelled the guards, jabbing us with the butts of their rifles. "They're going to drown us," said the bald man. "They brought us all this way to drown us and get rid of us here." "Dear God, no," said Mrs. Remus. The NKVD threw a wooden plank against the side of the barge. They pushed the children down the plank, screaming for them to hurry. "Hurry where? There's nothing here," said Mother. She was right. It was completely uninhabited. Not a single bush or tree, just barren dirt to a shore of endless water. We were surrounded by nothing but polar tundra and the Laptev Sea. The wind whipped, sand blew into my mouth and stung my eyes. I clutched my suitcase and looked around. The NKVD made their way to 2 brick buildings near a cluster of trees. How would we all fit? There were more than 300 of us. Kretsky argued with some of the NKVD, repeating that he had to go to Jakutsk. An NKVD with greasy hair and brown crooked teeth stopped us. "Where do you think you're going?" he demanded. "To the buildings," said Mother. "Those are for the officers," he snapped. "And where are we supposed to stay?" asked Mother. "Where's the village?" The guard waved his arms wide. "This is the village. You have the whole village for yourself." The other NKVD laughed. "Excuse me?" said Mother. "What, you don't like it? You think you're too good for this? Fascist pig. Pigs sleep in the mud. Didn't you know that? But before you sleep, you have to finish the bakery and build a fish factory." He moved closer to Mother. His corroded teeth protruded from under his top lip. "You fascists like fish, don't you? Pigs disgust me." He spit on her chest and walked away. "You don't even deserve the mud," he yelled over his shoulder. They made us carry bricks and wood from the barge. We filed in and out of the barge's deep hold, carrying as many bricks as we could. It took 10 hours to unload the barges. In addition to bricks and wood, we carried barrels of kerosene, flour, and even small fishing boats, all for the NKVD. My arms trembled with fatigue. "Liel says we're not going to America," announced Janina. "No kidding. Did your ghost doll tell you that we'd be here?" demanded the bald man. He pointed to a sign, crisp and faded from the weather. Trofimovsk, the very top of the Arctic Circle, near the North Pole.